This is my dad, and we're going to talk about the Columbine shooting.
Hi, my name is Levi, and I'm Frederick's father, and I'm going to be talking about the Columbine shooting back in 1999. That was a pretty major event back then, and I have a little bit of a unique perspective as I kind of fell along similar lines of that particular thing, even though I was in the military 2 years already when it happened. Columbine shooting happened in 1999. I was 2 years in the military at that point, but I remember hearing about it, and it kind of hit home for a few reasons. The first was that it was in Colorado, and I grew up in Colorado, and just being from that state, there are a lot of people that are very, very nice there, and so that kind of thing was kind of something that just never happened. Even though that particular area is a little more populated, it didn't translate to violence. But it happened with a pair of kids that had kind of sort of planned an attack on their school, something that has happened a lot over the last couple decades, but it was one of the first big ones. And they were kind of outliers, outcasts as far as kids at the school go. They wore a lot of black, goth style kids. So there were a lot of things that kind of came out after the fact when they kind of went back and looked at the history of the kids. They were subject to a lot of bullying. They also found that the kids played a lot of violent video games, and those things, I played video games a lot as a kid. I was kind of one of the outlier type kids at my school, and I was not in a lot of athletics. I played baseball and a couple other things, but for the most part, a lot of my high school growing up was big in football and wrestling. So when I didn't do that, it kind of put me in a different category, and so I could kind of sympathize a little bit. Plus, I like to play video games, and I like to play similar games that they played, but I don't think it ever had anything to do with violent tendencies, obviously. But anyway, it hit very close to home, and those kids, they planned the attack pretty thoroughly. Although they had made several bombs. The bombs, none of them went off, which was a good thing. But they attacked the school with a bunch of guns, and they killed a bunch of kids and injured probably 3 times as many kids as they killed. And so it was just a major thing, and really blew up the face of everything back then. And nowadays we hear about a mass shooting, and it's not huge news like it used to be. I mean, it's still a lot, but back then it was just something that swept across the nation, and everybody was left searching for answers on what happened. And I don't know that anybody ever will. The two guys committed suicide after they went through their process of attacking the school. So I don't know that they'll ever get true answers out of it. But being in the military at the time and hearing about it, it was just pretty shocking. And then my dad was still a school teacher in Colorado at the time, so I got that perspective as well. Those kind of things, they just kind of come out of nowhere, and they leave you shocked. But that was really big for me in the 90s. Having that setting, knowing the area, knowing the people that I grew up with in Colorado, it's just not something that occurs or did occur back then that much. It was hard. It was real hard on I think society as a whole. And then because of the things that came out after the fact about them playing different video games or They also even went so far as to blame Dungeons and Dragons and a bunch of things. It actually made it even worse for kids that were in that outcast kind of group, because then people became real suspicious of any kid that was in that group, and then parents wanted to blame everything as a method to try and keep that from happening to their own kids, when in reality a lot of those things were just outlets for their own frustration. It would never re-manifest itself in violence, but that kind of group of kids, they need a different kind of outlets for their own emotions, and that was kind of the case there. But it was a major impact on society back then, for sure. That's all I got.
Was that good?
Yeah, I guess.
I could put that on, right?
What?
Yes, I need your video consent.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
sure.